544 KTSM 915-544-5876 or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you also for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, plus all the other pages that we're now streaming on, which include other Facebook pages, which we have been doing a bit, but then also on YouTube, the Talk El Paso channel, Twitch, which is an experiment to be had, which may or may not be working at this time, and also on Twitter at Andrew J. Polk and at Talk El Paso. So a bunch of different ways to tune in because, well, being multifaceted and having backups is a kind of an entirely important thing. Not even just given the outages, though that was definitely a spurring moment. It's been in the works for a minute, been hinting at it for more than a minute, but getting it to the multiple places, as many as possible, really, wherever people will actually tune in, not looking to make this a exclusion or to drive ourselves crazy, because I'm sure there's a million other services out there. Is Dig still a thing? Anyway, I don't even know if you can go live on that. But point being that we want to be where the audience is and where you all are and where we can have that discussion. So that's what we're doing, and that's the purpose behind why we're going all those places, to be, getting around some of those interesting factors, both the technical ones as well as as well as a lot of different things. Did I put the wrong title on this one here? Every night is Saturday night, every Monday is Monday morning. If I put the wrong title on this one, that's on me. But regardless of that, we're here and we are talking about the things that affect here in the borderland, because of course there's a lot of it here. So it is Monday, if I did happen to put that wrong in the social media stuff. No, I don't think we did, unless we did. If we did, well, it will be now for sure, and then we'll make that reference here, because we do the Saturday shows as well, so maybe that's Edgar Ortiz letting us know that we got our days wrong. But it's definitely Monday morning, and we're definitely Monday afternoon, rather. Still wrong there. And we're definitely here talking about the things that affect us here in El Paso. Of course, it being Monday, and this Monday in particular here in October would usually be, at least when I grew up, be a particularly cold day, but of course that has had some issues with it over the years. Now, hasn't. And that's something that we have local officials and groups talking about, but also kind of on the topic of differences of opinion and how those are respected or completely not, particularly online. Recently in real life spaces there, we're going to be talking a little bit later this hour with Texas Representative Dan Crenshaw, a new children's book he has out, but getting a lot, that's kind of the entry into the conversation, because you might think, what the hell? A, why does he have a children's book? And B, why should we care? It gets a lot deeper than that, so stay tuned for that as here. So that's some of the things we're talking about today, as we are dealing with slightly fallish weather. I don't know. You tell me if you actually believe it or not. Still decently hot in my vehicle anyway, but making it a hint of it is maybe. I guess I won't totally believe it until we hit the time change, personally. Okay, Edgar Ortiz, so maybe I'm not totally messed up. Just way of saying motivated all week there, as we also have Leroy Chuck tuning in. So let's dive straight into it. Of course, this day, as I remember, coloring stuff when I was back in elementary school and before being called Columbus Day, but increasingly, of course, this has been known as not that. It has become, in some places, known as other days, either replacement or in conjunction with Indigenous Peoples Day. That's one particular way that this is being changed and challenged to a certain extent, and specifically speaking about local organizations. UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso, has, in respect of Indigenous Peoples Days, has made an informal acknowledgement recognizing the campus resides on Indigenous lands. This coming from out of El Paso Matters as well. And they spoke with Jeffrey Shepard, history professor at UTEP, saying that the Heather Wilson, UTEP president, approves it, the provost approves it, and the faculty senate approves it. And something that's been in the work for a couple of years now. So, I mean, it's a interesting, I guess, commemoration of this day. But I gotta wonder about, is this, I mean, how functional then is this? Are you then going to be making donations to any of the indigenous groups that are still in the area, giving them back any of that land, or is this just a, yes, we are here? Is it leading towards those? Because at a certain point, I mean, slacktivism is, of course, obviously a thing, but it almost feels like a kind of an Aunt Jemima situation. I mean, sure, a private company making their own decision, but it was only kind of in name. Like, it wasn't actually doing anything about the issues supporting it. So that's just kind of my, I mean, if you're excited about it, I mean, good for you. But at the same time, I mean, it's just, is this totally just an awareness thing, or is it actually going to have a functional thing where you're on it, dealing with it, and actually advancing the issue, or is it just a, we acknowledge it, kind of a, you know, a symbolic thumbs up kind of thing? So that's part of what's going on here, is other people are actually marking in and talking about the issues at the very least. And if you differ on the issues, that's fine. But I guess just actually advancing it makes a little bit more sense to me. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like you're actually dealing with the issue or the things behind it at all. I mean, they are going to be having an actual, in commemoration of Indigenous Peoples Days, College of Liberal Arts Arise, El Paso Community College, and the Isleta del Sur Pueblo, a week-long virtual discussion on Indigenous issues. That almost seems like it may be a little bit more functional than just the recognition, because, okay, you recognize it, so what are you going to do about it? I guess is the natural question that comes out of me. So in all of the rush to do this, I just think that substantive action matters a bit more than just, again, that kind of stamp of approval, that thumbs up that you get at the, maybe that's just me. If you're going to be a part of an issue, actually do something on it. Anyway, that's one of the things we're talking about here today. Another important one, we have a few important ones definitely going on here, is other people, of course, commemorating that, and some of the debate over it. So I want to know what you all think, Frank, about, you know, is this important? Being of an Italian-American background, not that I identify heavily with it, but I mean, part of my understanding is the reason Columbus Day came about was to help integrate Italians into the American experience by saying that that even though he was Spanish chartered at that point during that sailing of the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria in 1492, it wasn't actually, he was of Italian stock and heritage himself, of Italy. He was Italian, is the simple way to put that. And so that was a way to then, you know, bring it in there, because at that point in time, particularly when this came about, I mean, we still had, there's an old Frank Sinatra song about how we're all Americans, and talking about all the different ethnicities, like, you know, Irish, Italian, Polish, etc., that came into it, because the current kind of concept of it is the way we have it now, of literally just skin tone being the main thing, wasn't always there, obviously. So I guess the question then comes down to me, for the people who like it, the people who don't, entitled to your opinion, but has Columbus Day served its purpose? Is it required anymore? Is it something that we need to focus on, or can other issues have their focus on it as well? So that's kind of the question for the day here, as we, of course, are marking, again, either Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, however you want to go on about it here. Let us know what you think, as we have some people commenting about that already, including Michael Pettis and more. We're getting due for a break here right now, but coming back from the break, we'll be getting to more of these conversations, and of course getting to that interview here today with a Texas representative from the 2nd Congressional District, Dan Crenshaw, on his new children's book. But stay tuned. It ends up being a very interesting discussion about cancel culture and much more, and in ways that might surprise you. So stay tuned for that, with more here on Talk El Paso, here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Calls a little bit later in the hour, as we usually do, but we still have those comments online. So tune in however you decide to, and yeah, let's start off this week right, even if I'm getting freaked out about the name of the show. Back in a minute here on Talk El Paso. However you might be feeling about this being a Monday or not quite Monday, or to Monday, it always seems like it's a good weekend that feels the Mondayest of Mondays, isn't it? Anyway, the way I kick my rear in gear, amongst other ways, is particularly when you're getting close to the show, getting that slump in the afternoon. I know you know what I'm talking about, because we've all felt it. So something I reach for is Clever Tea, KLEVR TEA, for the drink that it makes. It comes in boxes and bottles and is locally produced, which is absolutely something I get very excited for whenever I can find it. And I'll admit, I wasn't the hugest cold tea drinker. I sometimes may brew a hot one, but cold tea just never really did it for me. It was either way too sweet or just, well, weak tea, and this is neither. because particularly when you get it in the bottles, pre-made comes sweetened with just the right amount of monk fruit, and it's delicious, doesn't leave you wired, but it gives you that boost of energy that you need. And even as we are coming into that kind of fall, suspiciously fall, maybe fall, eventually we'll hit it, get those 2 weeks that we usually get. Immunity boost is something that we could all use. So you can definitely use that with our Oolong Wise blend. You can find it again, boxes and bottles at the Brown Street Market, CBD Vita, Upper Valley Mercantile, Muscle Confusion Gym and House of Hoops, and Cooking Time at the outlet malls. Plus, you can find them online and get the boxes yourself. Again, clevertea.com. That's KLEVRTEA.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Interstate 110, the short highway spur near the Bridge of Americas. You've got about a 5 to 10 minute delay there. 10 westbound Airway over to Trowbridge, a bit sluggish. Also some buildup on the Patriot Freeway southbound Cassidy down to the I-10 transition. Wrestler north on a Belvedere medical situation, and a medical situation southbound Wrestler at Mesa Street. Go with Desert Boulevard or I-10. That's a look at El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by SmartMouth, the only 24-hour mouthwash with twice daily use. Big interview. You check your suit, your resume, your palms. But wait, did you check your breath? Get SmartMouth, the only mouthwash that provides 24 hours of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day. Find SmartMouth in the mouthwash aisle at Dollar General or get 20% off at smartmouth.com/radio.
Back with another Medicare Moment with Eric with Advocate Health Advisors. I've heard of a benefit included in some Medicare Advantage plans called a Part B give back. What is that?
Well, a Part B give back, or better described as a premium reduction, is a reduction in the Medicare Part B premium for members participating in specific plans. For example, if your price is $148 and you have a $50 Part B give back, your Medicare Part B premium deduction would drop to only $98. It instantly puts money back in the veteran's pocket simply for enrolling in one of these plans.
For more info on this and much more, you can call Eric, your local advisor, wherever you're hearing this broadcast, at 1-800-876-0214. That's 1-800-876-0214.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean, Mike. Gotta go.
Eee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening. Hey, what's so funny, man?
Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called.
Really? What did she want?
Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? You have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us on the many social pages we're on, primarily Facebook.com/Talk El Paso. We're also doing it on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all of those. So wherever you're at, you can find us there and also review the episode. So if you're watching this in the future, greetings. Anyway, a lot of stuff we're talking about here today. Of course, it is Monday, previously known as Columbus Day. So the kind of question of the day I put out there is, has Columbus Day served its purpose? Coming from an Italian-American standpoint, at least back anyway, not like a huge Italian family, I visit some of it, but it's a reasonable question, I think. Has it served its purpose, or is it time for something else to serve its purpose? For example, here up in Chicago, which I've visited a few times, they have Kazimierz Pulaski Day in place of it, specifically Polish heritage there. So kind of similar purpose, but not exactly we've got some questions and put-ups about the purpose behind the suggestion of Indigenous Peoples Day. So I think it's a reasonable question and debate to be had. Has it served its purpose? So, question of the day kind of thing out there that you can leave on air and online that we'll be getting to much more in other ways. So, getting to interview for today, I was able to sit down for a little bit with Dan Crenshaw, the Texas congressman from the Houston area, essentially. You want to talk about some interesting maps, go look up the Texas 2nd Congressional District for a little bit of giggles, because it's an uninterestingly shaped one. I'm going to call it a snake, and you can make your own decisions about it. But specifically, he's got a children's book out. And you may, okay, cool, if you're into that kind of thing, but why? But the focus of his children's book is essentially cancel culture, and both as a way to, have a child level understanding of it, and then also resources for parents. But even beyond that, the whole discussion of it, we went to some interesting places with that. So again, I was able to speak with him a little bit earlier today. So here is Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Enjoy. On this occasion, it's an interesting one because you have a new book coming out, right?
I do. A little different than my last book. A bit of an easier read. It's actually a children's book, and it's part of a series of children's books, actually. That is designed to give parents children's books that have conservative lessons in them. So it's a really cool project.
Yeah, kind of like its own, I guess not cinematic, but literary universe being created there by Brave Books. So what is the name and what is the theme of the book that you've put together?
So my book is called Fame, Blame, and the Raft of Shame, and it's about cancel culture. It's about a comedian hippopotamus in a place called Starlit City, which is an underwater city. And as you said, this city is part of a larger universe called Freedom Island. And what's really cool about the series of books, and it's bravebooks.com, that's where parents can go to buy it. It's the only place you can go buy it, actually. Bravebooks.com, and you can get mine at dan.bravebooks.com. But then you can subscribe to a whole series of books, and you'll get a new one every month from a different conservative author, kind of a conservative icon that you've probably heard of before. And I partnered with them on the cancel culture one because, it's kind of how I got famous in the first place, right? It was this sort of cancel culture mob going after SNL, and then I forgave them for it. And these are the kind of lessons that we're trying to teach kids: lessons in forgiveness, lessons in not canceling others, learning to identify cancel culture and understand what it is and what it isn't. I think sometimes people get it wrong a little bit. And what's really cool about these books too is they have parent-led workbooks and lessons in the back of them, so you can tell the story and then you go into more detail with some games and lessons designed for the parents to play with their kids. And it comes in a neat package. You get a big map of Freedom Island and all of the different characters and locations on it. And it's really a saga, and it should be pretty entertaining, but also worthwhile if you're trying to teach your kids conservative lessons.
So specifically on then the one you address here, cancel culture, you mentioned a little bit about some of the tools and the way it's put together, but when it comes down to it, how do you end up then explaining the concept to children? I mean, us in the adult political world have had many discussions and focus on it, but when it comes to kids, just how do you even begin to address it?
Well, storytelling is, whether it's a kid or adult, is always the most effective way to do it, and then getting that story right. So, in this case, we have a comedian, a hippopotamus, and she's starting her career in Starlit City, and her boss starts, canceling other animals in the audience because of things they might say. And what cancel culture is what we should be able to explain to their kids is, like, it's not necessarily just stopping speech. I mean, if somebody starts swearing in the classroom, they're obviously going outside the boundaries of the agreed upon standards of speech within a classroom, for instance. So, we still have to have standards, and a lot of conservatives, activists get this wrong, and they try to provoke people. They try to say the craziest thing possible, and then they get canceled, they get criticized, and they're like, "Why are you trying to cancel me?" Well, because you're being a jerk. And so we have to be able to distinguish between standards and cancel culture. And what cancel culture is trying to bypass debate, right? Trying to make it seem like previously normal, debatable items and conversations are now taboo, right? So it's new categories of taboo. And so to tell that story, we try to make it relatable, try to make it entertaining for the kids, and bring those kind of difficult concepts together in an actual story where in this case the heroine then saves these animals from canceling and brings them back down from the raft of shame, and talks about forgiveness, and talks about letting people express themselves freely, it's a good ending to the story.
If you're just joining us, guest right now is, again, Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw, representing the Houston area. And if you want to find out more information, like you said, you can find it with Brave Books, this current one, as part of the Freedom Islands series going on here. This is the 4th book in that series, is that right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
4th book.
All right. And so in talking about then, like, your perspective as you're putting it forth on cancel culture, because sometimes, even in the discussions we've had on this program, it has been the nothing can ever be said, and if you're saying they can't, that's wrong. And I mean, we have to not do that because we have FCC standards, amongst other things, go to. So an important distinction you make there between anything goes and certain established standards that are, at least, very least, ideally uniformly enforced, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. This gets into issues of free speech as well, like how to defend ourselves within our free speech principles, and how the left, frankly, tries to use that against us. Because they'll do things like, well, we want transgender people to have trans story time, right? What about free speech? And free speech doesn't mean hedonism, doesn't mean anything goes necessarily. It means you can still have standards. Now, you can't legally infringe on that, but you can still fight for standards, and we shouldn't let anybody tell us differently. And you can also fight for what is, again, I think, normally debatable issues, and the right to debate those using logic and reason, and letting them sort themselves out. Cancellation is bypassing that, right? So cancellation often manifests in attacking the intent of someone, attacking the character, which, because if you say somebody's a bad person and you call them a racist or something along those lines, well then you already don't have to listen to what they have to say. I mean, they might be making a good point, but you can say, well, yeah, but they're a bad person, so how can anything they say be a good point? So it's a cheap form of conversation. It's a cheap form of debate, and it's something we have to be on the lookout for. It's sneaky. I mean, sometimes it manifests in pretty obvious ways. You can come up with plenty of examples of cancellation of Dr. Seuss and Aunt Jemima, things like that. But in other ways, it's more subtle. In a classroom, it can be sort of the mob rule against a particular student for even questioning certain ideas that are perfectly questionable. Like, again, if a student wants to advocate Earth theory in the classroom, and everybody's like, we need to stop. Well, that's not that crazy. I mean, because flat Earth theory is nonsense, and everybody knows it. So again, that would be taboo. But you can't go from there to more debatable topics like honest questions about climate change and what we should do about it, right? And for instance, now you see Google trying to cancel anybody who has different ideas about that. We have to be able to distinguish between those multiple issues, and you distinguish between them using your sense of reason, your deductive reasoning skills, and the facts.
So really what it kind of comes down to is, in my mind, what I almost consider kind of South Park rules, in that everything should be up for debate and discussion. And if you're shutting down part of it, I mean, you even faced it yourself, like you said, both from the left and the right, having been referred to sometimes as a rhino, even by some people who comment on this show, and that wanting to kind of shut you down in that way.
Yeah, I mean, if we think cancel culture isn't alive and well on the right, we're crazy. People try to do it all the time, and look, the people who try to do that kind of thing and name call and things like that, it's usually because they lack the intellectual capacity to think through what they want to say. That's usually what it is. And if that sounds insulting, fine, it's meant to be. If you're defaulting to terms like rhino and things like that, you're really no different from the leftist that just calls everybody a racist every time they disagree with them. And and I think it's deeply silly, and It's a form of this sort of cancel culture. An inability to think through things, inability to see nuance, inability to see context, and a tendency to jump to conclusions very rapidly and very emotionally. So, cancel culture and hyper emotional states are very closely linked, and we all have an interest in fighting against that.
Really what it seems like is that in cancel culture, some of the phrases that you've brought up here, people will deploy them as if it's supposed to be kind of like a magical talisman, almost like a garlic or a cross to a vampire that will automatically ward them off, and therefore they've won, when it doesn't really work that way in real life.
Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately, it has started to work that way in real life, which is why this is such a problem. And whether it's the Twitter mob or whatever it is, people are losing their jobs. People are losing their status. And what's interesting about cancel culture too, another feature of it, is it really can only happen on your own side. See, the left can't cancel me; they can never cancel me, but the right can try. And the same with like somebody like Bill Maher. I mean, it's not the right that wants to cancel Bill Maher; it's the left. And it's always within your own side, and it's something conservatives have to be a little bit more aware of. Because look, the quickest way to a conservative's heart, as we all know, is not necessarily to attack Democrats; it's to attack your fellow Republicans and call them rhinos and tell people that well, you're the purest of the pure. You're the one they need to come to for truth, and you need to click on our website and donate to our cause, because we're the ones who are real fighters, unlike those other guys. They're just tricking you. The truth is, the people telling you that, the people have to express to you that they're the real fighter, that they're the real conservative, they're probably the fakest of them all. That comes as a surprise to many. This is something I've been explaining to a lot of people recently, and it's something they've never heard before, but you need to hear it. Because what they do is in order to elevate themselves within our movement, they engage in a form of cancel culture against people on our own side, and they do so in very disingenuous ways. And really, they're performing for you. They know what you want to hear. They'll repeat the slogans instead of actually giving you the tools you need to persuade others to be on our side, which would actually help us win.
Which definitely is an issue in current modern politics about, a lack of the debate on the actual factors and policies at hand, and then coming down to, well, you're wrong and I'm better because of what I believe and not. So it's prevalent in a whole lot of ways there, but definitely can be seen in specific ways. And again, the reason we're talking about this is because of the book you have coming out, again, from Brave Books, The Fame, Blame, and the Raft of Shame. So again, guest right now has been Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about all these myriad issues and how it all relates to the book you have coming out here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And again, if you want to buy it, go to bravebooks.com. You can buy just this one, or you can subscribe and get a new one every month. bravebooks.com.
All right. Thanks again to Dan Crenshaw, Texas representative, for speaking with us about his book, but really about the issues behind it is how I really wanted to get into it. So good opportunity, came up kind of last minute there, so that's why I didn't talk much about it last week, because I couldn't really plan on it at that point, didn't know about it. So this is the kind of thing we like to do on occasion, because I'll take the opportunity to talk with him about these important issues. So coming up here on the need for another break, and that means we will be opening up those phone lines. So that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. So we'll get into that, more issues. We certainly deal with cancel culture here, as well as, Columbus Day, is it still needed? Get into all that and more coming after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Something you definitely need, regardless of whatever your beliefs on the current issue may be, is good medical resources and information. You can get both over at Upper Valley Urgent Care Center, 121 East Red Road, which is just west of I-10. So easy access from whichever side of town you may be coming to. I know people who come from all sides of town, frankly, because they trust Doc Carpenter and his team to give them the care and have the medical knowledge they need for whatever it is. Those minor medical emergencies that can crop up. Well, if they're planned, there wouldn't be emergencies, now would they? So they've got everything from those aches, sprains, breaks, bruises, sniffles, and more. They've got you covered with vaccines, COVID and flu, rapid testing, everything up to x-ray capabilities. So anything that would get you in that category of those minor medical emergencies, you can come there for the fast and friendly 5-star medical treatment. No appointment needed. Walk in 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Upper Valley Urgent Care Center.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 News Update. An NMSU professor who publicly opposed campus vaccine and mask mandates will no longer be teaching there. David Clements was a business college professor. According to the Sun News, he posted on his social media account that he'd been terminated. The university confirmed that today. The professor was on track for tenure, but had been suspended since August over public declarations that he would not abide by a vaccine or mask mandate. Southwest Airlines canceled nearly 2,000 flights over the weekend and today. It affected thousands of travelers, including travelers from El Paso. The airline today cited weather issues and other external constraints, although it didn't specify what those constraints were. El Paso water crews responded to a water main break in northeast El Paso. It happened this morning. Customers living near Loma del Norte Drive and Loma del Sol Drive were without power. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Interstate 110, the short highway spur near the Bridge of Americas. You've got about a 5 to 10 minute delay there. 10 westbound airway over to Trowbridge, a bit sluggish. Also some buildup on the Patriot Freeway southbound Cassidy down to the I-10 transition. Wrestler north on a Belvedere medical situation, and a medical situation southbound Wrestler at Mesa Street. Go with Desert Boulevard or I-10. That's a look at El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We're now in between storm systems, and that means our next weather maker arrives on Tuesday. Our winds will remain up through the night. That means a windy night for the borderland, but even stronger winds by mid-morning on Tuesday, lasting into the early evening. This next system also brings with it some cooler air.
This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo.
Your life, your hopes, and whatever you were searching for at 1:15 a.m. It's really none of our business, and it shouldn't be anyone else's. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Hey folks, this is Andrew J. Polk. These days, it's important to know where to go to get quality medical care and services when you need it. The go-to for my family is Dr. Alan Carpenter and his team at Upper Valley Urgent Care Center for any minor medical emergency. Equipped with 20 exam rooms and the tech to go with it, they're ready to handle colds and testing all the way to x-rays. Open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., fast and friendly with no appointment needed at 121 East Red Road. Celebrating their 15th anniversary this fall, Upper Valley Urgent Care Center.
Radio advertising can connect your business with holiday shoppers wherever they go. Use iHeart Ad Builder to create an affordable custom radio ad right on your phone. Just click, listen, approve, then hear it on the radio. Create your customized ad today at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
Big interview. You check your suit, your resume, your palms. But wait, did you check your breath? Get Smart Mouth, the only mouthwash that provides 24-hour breath with just 2 rinses a day. Find Smart Mouth in the mouthwash aisle at Dollar General or get 20% off at smartmouth.com/radio. This report is sponsored by Smart Mouth, the only 24-hour mouthwash with twice daily use.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Whatever you're doing in your day, it's important to take the time to think about your health and to stay on top of it, particularly with the latest medical innovations. There's talked about every Saturday at noon with the Medical Hackers with Dr. Sandeep Rao, board-certified vascular interventionalist. He gets into the issues, usually reviews a bit of the current medical news, and then gets into both his practice and how you can navigate a complex medical system. So something that I'm involved in, I'm always fascinated to hear what he's thinking about and how he's going about it. So, again, if you want to tune in yourself Saturdays at noon here on News Radio 690 KTSM, or you can submit your own questions. He takes them by email, rao@medicalhackers.com. That's RAO@medicalhackers.com. Be sure to tune in this Saturday at noon.
Live from the KTSM AM 90 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM. Or follow Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us on social media over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the YouTube channel, Talk El Paso, as well as others such as Twitter @Talk El Paso, and a few more that are out there. Also trying Twitch. That one's Andrew J. Polk, but look up one of those two names. You can find me in most of those places when we're doing it live, as we are today, 4 to 5 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We did have to talk with Dan Crenshaw, our guest in the previous segment here a little bit earlier today because of his schedule, essentially. But otherwise, we are here live, local, and talking about the effectives here in the borderland. And one of the main ones, it's an interesting conference that we do have here locally, isn't it, on the whole Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. The question I have, and one I've thought about for a minute here, would love to know what you all think. Has Columbus Day served its purpose? Now, we do have, of course, some debate about this. Michael Pett is also chiming in. We would not be here if it weren't for Columbus. But I would challenge back at that slightly that, yes, he is the one that discovered part of the Americas, but more specifically, he discovered the island of Hispaniola. And that was about it. Never made it to mainland U.S. There's a reason that this is called the Americas and not the Columbus's, or however that would work. It was actually then Amerigo Vespucci who then actually found the continental masses of the continents here, specifically South America mainly. But, I mean, that's the reason we're not known as anything besides the Americas, North and South Americas. So the question is, again, has Columbus Day served its purpose as a way of bringing in basically Italian Americans and connecting them to the American experience, which is essentially why it started. I mean, looking at my very rough and bad research here, first celebrated about 300 years after the landing of it, so in the 1700s in New York City, and then didn't become really formalized until the early 1900s here. I think Colorado was the first one to actually hold it, and then FDR made it a federal holiday, a little bit further on in the century there. So I think it's a reasonable question to ask, and despite all of the other posturing that happened around it. But tell me what you think. So, as we do have, Moore and Leroy Chuck chiming in as well, his discovery drove the exploration of the Americas, but, I mean, he also had bad math, so maybe, would it have happened, or was it dumb luck? There's a good question as well. So, taking calls and comments on that, and we'll be taking those calls. So, at the end of the hour, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Right now, we do have Tony on the west side with us. Tony, for joining us.
Hello, thank you, Andrew. Always a class act. Thank you for your character and your sense of fairness for everybody. Hello, everybody. Columbus Day. I am one of those fellers, one of them there fellers of the minority group that used to hate, when they went to school and they taught you how Columbus is responsible for bringing disease and how the Native Americans were so abused and killed and how the European white male has been so evil throughout the ages, conquering and I used to hold a grudge until I grew up and I matured and I looked a little further and I studied and I read history and I realized that it's all throughout history. Let me say that again. All throughout the history of mankind, there's been injustices from one group to another. I don't know on earth that hasn't had injustices done to it. So when I decided, instead of holding a grudge and wanting payback or reparations or all that BS that's going on right now, is I decided to learn from the conquerors and ask myself, why would God give a particular group victory over another group? Let me say that again. Why would God give victory one group over another? And I studied, I don't have time to go into detail right now, but if you study scripture throughout the ages, you'll find out that it's God that allows the victors for a reason. So what I do now, instead of holding grudges and feeling inferior and blaming other people for my shortcomings like some people do, instead, I learn from the victors. I learn from the people who are successful, and I try to adapt myself to be successful myself. So let's stop. And that's why that critical race theory is such a BS, because all it's going to do is try to divide people and hold grudges and fan the flames or what have you. So let's grow up. Let's understand that behind it all, God has a purpose, and the best thing we can do, no matter what color our brothers are, they're still our brothers in humanity. And we should learn from them and improve ourselves on our own without blaming somebody else for our shortcomings. So thank you, Andrew, for the platform. And if you have a question, and by the way, that gentleman speaker that you had, look, the reason we use the terms like rhino and things like that, not all of us are intellectually incapable. It's just that sometimes there's not enough time excuse me, not enough time to go into detail. So words like rhino are actually very, expeditious. In other words, they save time and they do accomplish something, because we are, unfortunately, the Republican Party, for example, McConnell is a rhino. He's a Republican in name only. So that's why we use those terms. So while we may not like labels, sometimes for expediency, we have to use labels to get the point across.
Interesting counterpoint there. So thank you for the point in the call there. I will say that, I take it as you are learning from to not repeat the mistakes of previous people, but I gotta say that it feels a little hand-wavy to me to then say, oh, well, this was done because of God, and therefore it's fine. People even at the time, this is not even a modern sentiment. Columbus was taken to tribunal by, even the Inquisition was like, dude, you went too far with some of the stuff you did. So this is not only a modern sentiment. He died kind of in disgrace at the end of it, but then got resurrected in the more modern era as a way of connecting it. So the story as it is told, and I'll say, growing up myself, I didn't hear any of that stuff in my elementary or even middle school education about the stuff that was done by Columbus, because it wasn't part of the curriculum I was introduced. It wasn't until I was an adult that I was introduced to some of these concepts and had to reconcile them for myself here. So, if you're wanting to keep it around because you like the idea, I'm more than open to the discussion on it, but saying that, oh, well, everyone's done bad stuff, so therefore we shouldn't judge him any more harshly. He wasn't even judged harshly at the time. So slight issues with that coming from me here. Anyway, got to take that break right now, but coming back from the break, we'll get to more of those comments and calls in line, some more discussion going on about this here. It is the day to talk about it, so if you want to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Among other things we're marking this month on a completely different note is, of course, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's all month here. You've seen those pink ribbons around, most likely, in discussion about cancer in general, but specifically for breast cancer. El Paso's own Therapeutics and Thermography Inc. is offering $50 off all breast thermograms. And so if you haven't heard of thermography, we've been talking about it for a minute here, but essentially it's an imaging tool to help you diagnose and figure things that are going out differently than they would from other methods. It can even help with early detection. So literally imaging, that becomes a heat map of that portion or even other portions of your body. But again, focus on breast cancer for the month of October. Absolutely. So give them a call at 915-401-4053. That's 915-401-4053. And get that $50 off. Also find them online at elpasothermography.com. That's El Paso Thermography, THERMOGRAPHY.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Interstate 110, the short highway spur near the Bridge of Americas. You've got about a 5 to 10 minute delay there. 10 westbound airway over to Trowbridge, a bit sluggish. Also some buildup on the Patriot Freeway southbound Cassidy down to the I-10 transition. Wrestler northbound at Belvedere, medical situation, and a medical situation southbound Wrestler at Mesa Street. Go with Desert Boulevard or I-10. That's a look at El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo.
Your life, your hopes, and whatever you were searching for at 1:15 a.m. It's really none of our business, and it shouldn't be anyone else's. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
The wear and tear on our body of aging and work can put you in a situation where maybe you end up on a road to addictive medicine. Lots of people do. There are alternatives. TheTrustedLab.com. First of all, it's lab tested. You want to see those results online? You will. You want it delivered to your front door? You want it completely legal because you're too old to play games? TheTrustedLab.com for your CBD. TheTrustedLab.com.
Big interview. You check your suit, resume, your palms. But wait, did you check your breath? Get Smart Mouth, the only mouthwash that provides 24 hours of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day. Find Smart Mouth in the mouthwash aisle at Dollar General or get 20% off at smartmouth.com/radio.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert.
Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Titans go!
When the Teen Titans go to the movies, they know the best way to travel is safely.
Hollywood, here we come! Road trip! And you know it's super.
To keep your child safe, be sure to use the right car seat for their age and size.
Exactly. I know you're feeling. We're finally on the big screen. Have a seat, my dude.
For more information on finding a seat, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Gotcha. That's a wise move. It's an
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A bunch of ways you can interact with the show. Of course, we've got the Facebook page and other online mediums. Wherever you're commenting these days, I'll see all of it here. So be it on any of the pages or any of the social here. If you want to leave your comment there, again, main one, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. But we'll then pop up some of the ones that we're discussing or bringing up here. Blue Chuck and Michael Pettis bringing up some of the main ones here about, again, some of the historical aspects and factors here. But, of course, we'll also be taking those phone calls, trying to squeeze in a couple more. And that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And we also got the pound 250 line. Don't forget about that. People usually do it in advance of Friday. But if you want to leave your message, such as after the show, in advance of the next one, and want to kind of get your foot in the door, it's the closest thing we got to a waiting list. We have no designated times or signups or anything, but if you leave pound 250, we'll try to get to it here in this segment in most shows. So the way you do that, call the number pound 250 on your phone, and then say the keyword Talk El Paso when prompted. So before getting right back to the phones here, to have Leroy Chuck ask me directly, do I think Columbus did anything good? I'm going to say it this way. I kind of think Columbus in a similar way to like Don Juan de Oñate, that there is an undeniable influence. And while Amerigo Vespucci did end up discovering the actual mainland here, may not have happened again if it weren't for the initial, if erroneous, discovery done by Christopher Columbus. So, I mean, it's undeniable how we got here. And to say that, well, I wish it never happened, none of us would probably be sitting here, be for better or for worse. I mean, that's the thing about history here. I'm not interested in canceling it. I absolutely want to, like Tony said, learn from it. Just wondering, has the day itself served its purpose? Because it has been turned, at least the way I was brought up, the way I was taught, and then had to learn differently from about the kind of, canonization of this person. I mean, is that deserved? But absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely an undeniable part of our history. And anyone says, oh, we shouldn't even learn about it, then I'm going to have issues with them. I'll absolutely say that here. All right, trying to get to at least a couple more calls for the end of the show. Right now we do have Marcelo on the east side. Marcelo, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. I just want to give my opinion. I mean, I'm Mexican-American, part Indian, and me personally, I have no issue. I don't feel nothing against Christopher Columbus or what he did in the past. Unfortunately, things happened in the past. But have anybody asked themselves, what would have happened if they would have never showed up to this continent?
Absolutely.
Would we be still running in naked? Would it be, this country is what it is now? So we only look at the negative. But what about the positive? There's more than just one side of this. A couple of things that happened because of that. Some bad and some very good, that we have this country now, this great nation that we're in right now, that some people don't know how to appreciate.
Well, I think that's a very valid one. So thank you very much for the point in that call there, because, again, learning about it and those questions of history absolutely come up here. And the chart of history has absolutely been influenced by individuals of all stripes and of different moral characters. And so it's almost, when you're talking about learning about history, it's almost irrelevant at that point, isn't it? There have been plenty of, frankly, human beings throughout history that have been good, bad, or tween, or had different stripes. It's hard to categorize someone one way, isn't it? So at the same time, well, I think that's, maybe the lionization has gone a little bit more. Again, the question I put it, has Christopher Columbus its purpose? That's the question I've been wondering about. I think we can squeeze in one more quick one here right now. You'll have a Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hi, this is Joe from the side.
Hey, Joe. We got about a minute here.
That, I'm Mexican American, of course, and I wanted to let you know that people, or the people, your audience, that they have to understand and know their history and their culture and the contributions that they made to this great country. If you don't take your history serious, some other group is going to step in and take it away from you, like they did with, Columbus. Really, Columbus was Spaniards, but, now the Italians claim it, which is fine, That's great. He was part Italian. But the thing about it is that people that were excluded from certain events in history, they weren't excluded because of on purpose. They just weren't there. So what happens is now these people are coming in and they want to exclude everybody else so that they can be inclusive in that thing. And that's what this critical race theory is all about. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you an example. Some years back on the El Paso History Show, a local historian said this. He said that Mexican Americans didn't know how to ride horses until the Buffalo Soldiers came here and showed horses. My God.
Yeah, that ain't right.
Mexican Americans were here 400 or 500 years before the Buffalo Soldiers ever came here. And do you know how they got here? On horseback. So you have to be careful. And people out there have to understand and rely heavily on their history and their culture.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to learn it. And so if you're saying that we got to erase Columbus from history, oh boy, I'm going to have words with you. But I think people can celebrate whatever they want to, but you got to learn from history regardless there. So we got to leave it there for today because we are out of time. So I want to thank everyone who did comment, call, and participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 5 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Got more coming up while I have Chris Babcock on tomorrow. Wasn't around available today to kind of set up the weekend, the big stories to come. So thank you for tuning in. Talk with you all tomorrow here on Talk El Paso. Look to us for motorcycles and stay safe out there, y'all. Time for a Medicare Moment with Eric with Advocate Health Advisors. Do you ever encounter veterans who are overinsured?
Yeah, we do. In certain circumstances, we find some veterans, they purchased a civilian product that duplicates the benefits that they already get through their military benefit, like TRICARE for Life, for example. This can be pricey when we discover it, but it's a quick fix, potentially puts thousands of dollars back in the veteran's pocket.
More info on that and much more. You can call Eric, your local advisor, wherever you're hearing this broadcast, at 1-800-876-0214. That's 1-800-876-0214.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Interstate 110, the short highway spur near the Bridge of Americas. You've got about a 5 to 10 minute delay there. 10 westbound airway over to Trowbridge, a bit sluggish. Also some buildup on the Patriot Freeway southbound Cassidy down to the I-10 transition. Wrestler north on a Belvedere medical situation, and a medical situation southbound Wrestler at Mesa Street. Go with Desert Boulevard or I-10. That's a look at El Paso traffic.
Hey, folks, it's Andrew J. Polk. Today's, it's important to know where to go to get quality medical care and services when you need it. The go-to for my family is Dr. Alan Carpenter and his team at Upper Valley Urgent Care Center for any minor medical emergency. Equipped with 20 exam rooms and the tech to go with it, they're ready to handle colds and testing all the way to x-rays. Open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Fast and friendly with no appointment needed at 121 East Red Road. Celebrating their 15th anniversary this fall, Upper Valley Urgent Care Center.
El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. There are multiple fatalities after a small plane crashed in a San Diego area neighborhood. It happened in Santee, which is northeast of San Diego. The Santee deputy fire chief said at this point at least 2 people have died and the scene is gruesome. Officials say